The hands of the children holding bayonets shook more than the blue light of the Rosette Nebula. I'll take you to read a book intensively every day. Today I'm bringing you Asterisk, the Supernova Era Asterisk. Chapter 7, Global Game and the Antarctic War Game. The Antarctic ice sheet glowed eerily under the blue light of the Rosette Nebula, like a spilled sapphire. When the icebreakers of various countries first broke through the ice, when the children leaned over the ship's railing and looked down, they all gasped in surprise. The exposed land was shiny black, like freshly baked bread. In the distance, a volcano was billowing white smoke. Hot springs steamed up white mists on the ice sheet. This place can be used for farming? A Chinese child suddenly shouted. The thermometer in his hand showed -5 degrees. Warmer than the winter in Beijing. When the news spread, children around the world went crazy. President David of the United States announced that day, Antarctica is a playground for all mankind, but whoever gets here first owns it. Ilyushin of Russia had the army plant flags all over the ice sheet, densely packed like planting potatoes. The most extreme was Japan. They sent a fishing boat, named a reef on the Antarctic Peninsula, Greater Japan Antarctic Province, and put up a sign on it. This isn't seizing land. It's like kids playing and grabbing toys. Huahua stood on the deck of the Zhulong, looking at the camps of various countries in the distance, feeling both angry and amused. El Gung was observing the American tents with a telescope. They've even brought tanks and set up machine guns. It doesn't seem like they're here for a picnic. Glasses was flipping through the Antarctic map left by the adults. The iron ore and oil reserves here can meet the world's needs for 100 years. More importantly, as the sea level rises, Antarctica may be the most suitable place for living in the future. He pointed at a red dot on the map. Especially Marie Birdland. It has vast plains and is close to the sea. All countries are eyeing this piece of fat. Sure enough, before long, conflicts arose. American children said that the Chinese camp had occupied the area they had their eyes on first. They sent a tank to directly roll over the boundary marker. Russian children fought with Japanese children over a hot spring. They broke the flagpole of the other side with ski poles. The most absurd were European children. They pitched their tents in a penguin colony. The reason was the penguins occupied it first. We'll share it with the penguins. This can't go on like this. Xiao Meng looked at the material consumption in the ledger, frowning tightly. Just transporting these tents and canned food has used up half of our ships. If there's more fighting, we won't be able to keep up with the material supply. At this time, David suddenly sent a message, saying that they were going to hold an Antarctic Olympics. Each country would send its army to compete. The winners would divide up the land. In short, it's using war as a game. Whoever wins gets the land. Huahua read the message to everyone. El Ganay suddenly slapped the table. Let's do it. Although our tanks aren't as advanced as theirs, but in terms of determination, who's afraid of whom? So, this absurd war game began. The first event was the tankhead on race. The rules were simple. China and the United States each sent 30 tanks to charge at each other on the plain. Whoever disabled all of the opponent's tanks first would win. On the Chinese side, it was the Tiger Company, personally commanded by El Gong, leading the way. The tanks were all domestic, Type 98s, although not as advanced as the American M1A2S. But the children painted tiger patterns on the tanks. and tied red silk ribbons on the gun barrels, looking very imposing. On the American side, there were all silver-grey tanks. The gun barrels were so shiny that you could see your reflection. David stood in the command vehicle, shouting into the walkie-talkie, "Let them see what an ace is." As soon as the game started, tanks on both sides rushed forward like crazy. The tracks rolled over the ice sheet, kicking up snow like white smoke. The Chinese children's tactics were quite tricky. First, they let a few tanks pretend to charge, to attract the Americans to fire. The rest circled around from the side. El Gong stared at the screen in the command vehicle, suddenly shouted, "Shoot their tracks. That's their weak point." Boom! The track of an American tank was broken, like a lame elephant, spinning in place. The Chinese children cheered, but before they could finish laughing, they heard a clank sound. One of their own tanks was in such a hurry that it actually crashed into an iceberg. The turret was tilted. Who wouldn't be confused by this operation? Hua slapped his thigh on the viewing stand. "We're charging. How could it crash into a mountain?" In the end, both China and the United States had 5 tanks left. The referee said it was a draw. Each side would get half of the land. Ga Gong said angrily, "It doesn't count. Their tank guns have a range 50 meters longer than ours. This is cheating." But David, sucking on a lollipop, said, "The rules don't say the guns can't have a longer range." The second event was the infantry combat race. It was about who could seize the high ground first during the charge. The Chinese children chose a dirt slope. The American children chose a snow mound. There was an open area in between. The child blowing the whistle was from Switzerland, holding a small red flag. His hands were shaking. In the previous games, 3 referees had been grazed by stray bullets. Charge! Children on both sides shouted slogans and ran forward. Some were holding rifles. Some were throwing grenades filled with paint. If you were hit, you were out. Among the Chinese children, there was a boy named Wang Ran, who used to be a bulldozer driver. Now he was carrying a rocket launcher, and actually knocked down the American fake bunker, splashing paint all over the opponents. But the Americans had a secret weapon. They installed toy sights on their rifles, although they weren't accurate. It scared the Chinese children into always wanting to hide. In the end, the American children climbed the snow mound first, raising the flag and cheering. Wang ran angrily through the rocket launcher on the ground. "Their sights are cheating." Xiaomeng sighed as she watched. "Our children are too honest. They're confused when the others play dirty." Glasses was taking notes. "Noted. Next time, we'll also bring some little tools." The scariest was the cold weapon race. The Japanese children somehow got a batch of samurai swords, and they were really sharpened, saying they wanted to recreate an ancient battlefield. The Chinese children could only fight back with bayonets. As soon as the 2 sides rushed together, there were the sounds of swords clashing, and a child shouted, "You touched me. You win." The scene was both tragic and comical. There was a Chinese child named Wei Ming, who used to be a postman. He ran very fast. He circled behind the Japanese children and used his bayonet to knock down the opponent's flag. But his pants got a big tear, showing his flowery underwear inside, making both sides burst into laughter. This isn't a war. It's like a party with some dangerous actions. Hua watched the farce on the field, suddenly felt a bit sad. These children were still going to school and playing games a few months ago. But now they had to fight each other with guns and knives, just because the adults had left the world to them. But soon the game changed. The American children thought paintballs weren't exciting enough. They secretly switched to rubber bullets, hitting people and leaving blue and purple bruises. The Russian children removed the engines from the tanks and turned them into bumper cars. As a result, they knocked over 3 tents. The most serious was, a group of European children actually lit an explosive pack, blew a big hole in the ice sheet, almost burying themselves. "We can't keep playing like this," Huawei found David said seriously. "If this continues, someone will really get killed." David was sitting on a tank eating a hamburger, mumbling unclearly. "What are you afraid of? Anyway, there are no real bullets. But there's methane under the Antarctic ice. Once it's leaked by an explosion, the entire continent may collapse." Glasses took out a detector. The numbers on it were jumping wildly. "In the hole you blew yesterday, gas has already started to come out." Only then did David get a bit panicked. Threw the hamburger on the ground. Then, don't, then suspend the game. "It's not a suspension. It's time to talk seriously." Hua pointed at the map. "Antarctica is so big. There's enough for everyone. Let's draw the boundaries. No one should seize it. We can farm and mine together. Isn't that good?" Ilyushin and Onishi Fumio of Japan also agreed. But just as they were about to sign, the American reconnaissance plane suddenly reported. It's found that Russia is secretly building a base in Marie Birdland and hiding missiles. "Nonsense." Ilyushin jumped up. "That's a boiler for heating. Does a boiler need a radar?" David took out a photo. The black dots on it really looked like missile launchers. After the argument, no one believed each other. El Gang quietly said to Huawei, "I think they're deliberately causing trouble, trying to monopolize that area." Sure enough, early the next morning, American tanks drove into the disputed area. Russian fighter jets took off. The Antarctic sky suddenly became tense. Even the penguins hid in ice caves. If a real fight breaks out, our people aren't enough. Xiao Meng counted the supplies. Her face turned pale. "The ammunition can only last for 3 days. And we're almost out of food." Glasses pointed at the volcano in the distance. He found that the volcano was about to erupt. The magma might turn Marie Birdland into an island. "We can pretend to retreat. Lure them to rush towards the volcano. When the magma flows down, they won't be able to retreat. Isn't this a dirty trick?" Huawei hesitated. "Then what should we do?" El Gang pulled his military cap down. "They've put a knife to our throats. Why should we be polite?" Just then, David suddenly sent a message, saying that there would be a final match. The event was intercontinental missile target practice. Whoever shot more accurately would get Marie Birdland. The shooting range was set beside the volcano. The Americans launched missiles from their homeland. China launched from Australia. Russia launched from South America. This is trying to make the volcano erupt. Glasses looked at the coordinates. His palms were sweaty. Their missiles must not have empty warheads. Huawei suddenly had an idea. He said to El Gong, "Notify the missile troops. Replace the warheads with special gifts." On the day of the competition, the Antarctic sky was gloomy. The volcano's crater was billowing black smoke. Missiles from the 3 sides took off one after another, trailing white lines across the clouds, like 3 whips whipped by God. The American missile arrived first. Boom! It exploded in the center of the shooting range. The flying snowflakes were like rain. The Russian missile deviated a bit, exploded in an ice lake. The splashed water froze into ice columns. It was China's turn to launch a missile. It flew over slowly. Didn't it explode with a fireball? But a bunch of things floated down. They were packages hanging from parachutes. Inside were all cookies, chocolates, and pictures drawn by children, on which was written "Stop fighting. Let's play together." David's command vehicle was silent for a long time. Suddenly, his voice came, choked with emotion. "You, ... you're cheating. The rules don't say missiles can't deliver gifts," Hua said with a smile. That afternoon, children from various countries sat on the snow, sharing the cookies sent by China, watching the white smoke from the volcano's crater gradually disperse. David suddenly said, "How about make Marie Birdland a park? No one should occupy it. Let's all play together." Ilyushin nodded. "Okay. I'll have the army mine iron ore to make toys for everyone." Onishi Fumio also said, "We can teach everyone to grow rice. The soil in Antarctica is quite fertile." Hua looked at the scene in front of him, suddenly remembered what teacher Zen had said. In a child's world, children should play together, instead of competing for toys. But they didn't know. The real crisis wasn't on the Antarctic ice sheet, but in those invisible places. Secretary Vaughn of the United States secretly slipped a note to David, on which was written, "We bomb Antarctica with nuclear weapons and turn it into our backyard." Marshal Javgorov of Russia was polishing his sword, his eyes getting colder and colder. And through the telescope, glasses saw American nuclear submarines were quietly moving under the ice, like a group of dangerous sharks. "You must have thought of it," Hua said to his companions around him. "This peace won't last long. As long as there's greed and fear, there will always be someone who wants to monopolize everything." The nights in Antarctica were getting shorter. The sun was about to hang in the sky all day. There were more and more tents on the ice sheet. The smoke from the chimneys connected into a line, like a gray ribbon. The children were still playing the war game, but they didn't notice. The real war had already secretly lit the fuse in the places they couldn't see. In the next chapter, we'll see the end of this game, when the missiles really take off with warheads, when the light of the Rosette Nebula is dyed red by the fire. These children will understand. Some jokes can't be made. Some prices can't be paid. This chapter is coming to an end. If you like it, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Shiju. See you in the next video.